Hey everybody, hey my FSA association, awesome. Okay, so welcome Fluid Sealing Association. Thanks for being here, guys. So I guess we should start with introducing ourselves, right, Tiana? Well, I'm so excited to be able to get to just chat with you, to see your faces. The Fluid Sealing Association is so important, and it's really been fun to see what y'all been doing. The member spotlights going out. I've had a lot of fun reading through those, and I'm just curious. Why did you get started in the FSA? So, Ron, you want to take that one? What the FSA is and kind of why you got started?
Sure. The Fluid Sealing Association for me really came into play about 15 years ago. Chesterton, my company, I think we're one of the founding members since the 1930s with the FSA. And we've always had certain people that had always had that connection. And then I got exposed to it and I was asked to go to a meeting. And I realized then how powerful the group can be about shaping things like safety of using this equipment, and regarding how technology has increased in this area. So yeah, and it's really nice to be able to meet people from all of the industry and really see all the benefits of working together. So
yeah, so let's talk about that. I'm going to shift this one over to Tom, since he is vice president of FSA right now. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right. So tell us, what is the FSA, and why are you part of it?
Now, the FSA to me is really, it's an amazing feeling to work with other industry experts to influence and continuously advance the way we protect our environment, and just networking and making friends, and all the people that I know I wouldn't know unless I wasn't part of the FSA. And it's great to work with other people in the industry that have the same goals and ambitions, and appreciate the same kind of work that we do.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that, finding a group of people with like minds and that understand your struggles is, for me, it's eye-opening when you find that type of group. Amy, what about you? I have you on mute here, so I'm going to unmute you.
So I think for me and for General Rubber, it's an end user driven, market driven opportunity to, as Tom had said, be with your competitors, but to set the national and international standards for the products, because there is no other spot for that. And I think we're a great resource for the industry who's looking to each of our products, and they want to know really what the requirements are. And we're not at the minimum requirements. I think we go to a step above, and we're really where should our products be from a standard standpoint, because there's really no other group like us that's doing the same thing for our core group of products.
Yeah, Sienna, I'm going to let you talk a little bit. Tell them kind of who you are. Have you been to the FSA meeting before, Sienna?
Yeah, it's been a few years. I know I traveled different places, and so I was lucky to make it to one meeting a few years back. And what struck me about the FSA was the fact that normally competing companies are coming together here to work together to make major improvements for the industry, not just with technology, but then also as advocates with government relations side. Because we always have regulators who want to make rules about things that they don't always necessarily understand, right? So having this group of experts that can come in and educate them about what's realistic, and having realistic goals is really important. So I think for me, that's always the value that I had seen with FSA. Also, that y'all are just a bunch of fun people to hang out with too. But I always end up learning something new, which is really cool. So, we find ourselves here in a really interesting time. Definitely a moment in history where we're doing great things just by staying home. Normally, a lot of your products help reduce emissions, when they're at work, right? So I just kind of wanted to understand about, how you feel like the FSA is adapting at this period of time, and what you think the industry will look like, you know, in the next year or so moving forward, how it might change. So I know I just threw a lot at you, but stuff to think about. So
Yeah, well, I will, just something you said that made me think about the FSA from my perspective. The government affairs group or committee, I got to see that kind of firsthand, where we went to DC and met with some people, and they didn't understand what sealing technologies were. Like, they were trying to make or advise people on regulations and things like that, and they don't really understand our products. And so they brought a group in from the FSA to educate them on the difference in sealing technologies. And I was just a innocent bystander there learning, but I got to witness all of that and understand the importance of advocacy. So to your point there, I did want to just mention the fluid sealing newsletter that went out today. It went out right before this call, and I thought it was really great. The information from Bob on COVID, and then the one thing that was mentioned there was, how are these things, the liabilities for companies and our customers. And one thing that was listed to pay attention to was our ventilation systems. And I was wondering if that would relate to our ducting, the expansion joint ducting division, and how that was going to expand. I know we don't have somebody that normally represents that group, but it's just something kind of interesting to think about and talk about. What do y'all see next as far as what we should be doing for the industry?
I have not seen the newsletter yet, so I can't comment on some of those things. But regarding where we're going, I mean, there's just a lot of things happening right now, especially on the emission side. First of all, it's amazing when you think about what's happened just over the last 20 years. Remember, this is my 30th year in this industry, and when I started, valves, if they were leaking 10,000 parts per million, they weren't considered leaking, right? It only over 10,000 was considered a leak. And today, 30 years later, that's 100 or even 50 parts per million. And that type of change, and the FSA being part of that, and the members of that working on R&D and research to actually make that product better, to go that big a distance, has been pretty impressive. And we've been, the FSA surely has a part of that, as what you were saying, when we're dealing with governmental agencies. Right now, a lot of things going on in Canada. They're working hard on trying to redo some of their methane laws. And I know the FSA is a little bit keeping up on that in the government affairs area. In the U.S., a lot of states are still dealing with methane, so that's another issue that the FSA is keeping abreast of. We have a lot of issues going on with products that are part of our family, like, for example, PTFE and those type of changes that are going through legislation that the FSA is keeping on top of also. So there's awesome. A lot of things going on.
Yeah, and Amy, I saw you had unmuted yourself. So did you have something you wanted to comment?
Well, I think one thing we're going to see is a lot of, and not just our member companies, but companies in general, re-looking and changing their supply chains. I think we have a global supply chain. I think most companies do. And when borders shut down, and even though it in theory shouldn't have affected much of import export, it certainly did in a lot of situations. So I think going forward, we will see a lot of changes come to it. What they are, I'm not quite sure, but I think that's going to be first and foremost for a lot of companies. Taking the human capital out of it, that obviously was the biggest impact for everybody. Next level is raw materials and getting product to market or bringing raw materials in.
Yeah, I was just reading an article about the port in Mobile, that all of the containers are still coming in, but nobody is picking them up. It's amazing to think about that. And I just, so much I don't know about y'all's jobs that fascinate me every time. Tom, did you have something you wanted to add? Kind of what's going on in your neck of the woods?
No, I just want, as far as the emission standpoint, I just wanted to make the statement that, you know, when the EPA and API were really looking at reducing the emissions from, I think, the 1,000 or 2,000 ppm threshold, they were originally looking at 500 ppms, and the Fluid Sealing Association really stepped forward and said we can do better than that, and actually dropped it down below 100 ppms. And without the fluid sealing stepping in and making the statement that we could actually meet that requirement, the emissions would be a lot higher right now.
Yeah, that is so great. Sienna, I don't know, you know, how much you know about that. I mean, I know we've studied it, we've shared it, we've learned, but we're talking about bringing our competitors into the same room and saying, we agree that we can do better.
Again, if the Fluid Sealing Association could say, no, we could reduce that parts per million even lower than what you think by using these better modern technologies, let's do it. Now, the first step is regulating it and mandating, like, hey, we have to use that. Because I know that, you know, the facilities, they have to basically be able to install those better products and the better technology. And I think that part of it has been that, you know, you have to know about the technology before you can install it. But then also when something like this hits and you have disruptions in supply chains, or you have issues where facilities are going to be stopping the budget, you know, halts spending in every way because of the uncertainty, then you again sort of keep yourself from improving because you're not installing through maintenance periods your better equipment and your better products. So I would like to see, as the country moves forward, that realization that the maintenance can't stop, you know, that infrastructure is really critical. And we need to maintain the equipment and also be upgrading it while we, you know, not just replacing it, but replace it with better things, replace it with better products.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important.
Yeah, I was going to ask about just what we've seen. I mean, we've talked about it with a couple of people on these meetups about maintenance and, you know, being reactive. And so there's some things that we can do to plan for, have this predictive, preventive style maintenance. But what about reactive, and like something happens and we have to go into a plant and fix it? What is that? How is that going to be different?
Like right now in the age of COVID, like getting into plants?
Yes.
Is that what you're asking?
That's right.
Yeah, well, for example, we're having some really strange things going on there, of course, as you can understand. Like we've had some emergency cases, but they want to also not mix. So a lot of times we've actually had people go into plants without an escort. They'll like just leave a note at the desk, and they, you know, like the security will get them through there, but they don't want any of the operators or anyone in that whole area. So they're like, here you go, but they want to stay quite a distance. And as you can say, that's almost becoming the last resort. As much as we can, as we were talking earlier about using cameras and stuff like this to get advice without having to have someone come on site is highly, highly recommended. But there have been a few cases where, you know, we've needed to get through. Same thing about supplies too. So we've actually had to, you know, show up and drop off equipment to get it through the gate. And that's almost like, you know, you're like, it's just like how the food delivery is today, right? Like you leave it on the corner and then you back away and someone comes and gets it. You know?
Well, I did hear one person saying, I'm sorry for interrupting you there, Ron.
No
I was hearing one of the ladies say that, you know, you can't really not be present when you start up equipment. So there was a pump startup that Rachel was telling us she had to go to, you know, be physically there. So I think, you know, that protective gear is pretty important in those situations. And just, you know, do we have it? Do we have that proper? I mean, if you're down in the pit with water everywhere, what's that going to look like? I'm curious on how we're going to continue. And then I guess the other point of that is these workers are out there courageous and taking these risks that they're doing it every day for us. So we definitely want to appreciate them and all that they do. One thing I wanted to talk about for the Fluid Sealing Association's website and knowledge base. So when we started that project, we were trying to make it where anybody could have access to information. So, a digital form. And we started that a couple of years back. And I know several of the committees have just a wealth of knowledge there for sealing. So, have we any other types of trainings that are going on, or would you just encourage people to go there? Amy, I hadn't heard from you in a while.
Well, I think, we were chatting a little bit before we came online. I think the world's going to rethink how they do business in a lot of areas, and things that were impossible to do before are all of a sudden being done. So I think the need for information and training and education over a digital media is it's already skyrocketed, but everybody's behind the curve, right? So for the FSA, I think there's a huge opportunity there now to really market it and expand on it, because the need for it is there. In the past, it was like, oh, we're going to go to a class, or we have somebody come in and train. We don't need it. Well, that's gone right now. And we don't know when that's coming back. So I see that as a huge opportunity, not just for us, but for any group that's putting information out there who traditionally was doing it in a face-to-face format. Now is the time, I think, to increase it, add to it, make it more robust, and make it more available to people.
Amy, to add to that comment, also with the near future of trade shows or training, things like that, not happening. So, matter of fact, Tom and I were just in the packing meeting half hour ago, and we're looking at putting just a couple of webinars that we were going to do in person, like we usually do at the Fugitive Emissions Summit. We're going to do one of those seminars online for the FSA. And, we're hoping that would help. And as you said, it's getting that type of training involved. We had done some in the past, both in the packing and the gasketing area and all that stuff. But I think it's a good time, and it's good training, online training opportunities. So,
Yeah.
and I think all of us in our own companies are doing a lot more of that too. For customers, for our sales organization and everyone, because it became serious real fast, right? I mean, before it was all like, oh, we have the LMS systems and we have all these things, and they're nice to look at, but I'm out on the road and all this stuff. All of a sudden they're like, wow. And the number of units of training that we've done on our LMS system at my company, I think we've broken all of our records just in the last couple of weeks. So it's really good.
So I think it's interesting. I wonder if it's the time that we have, that, we're not traveling, we're not on the road, we're not, that busyness of work, or is it that this is the way that we have to learn to communicate with each other? Like, this is the new, so you got to get on board or you're not going to be able to do your job. Tom, I hadn't heard from you in a while. Do you think that this acceptance, have you seen it just with all ages and people that you're working with?
Yeah, video chat's definitely become more of a thing as far as working with my colleagues that never wanted to do it before are definitely doing it now. I mean, they were all used to having FaceTime calls with their family members and stuff like that, but there was always that stigma that doing a video chat with your coworker was kind of different. But I think everyone's getting used to it, especially if you're at home alone all the time and you get to see someone's face and in facial expressions and body language. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, we've been loving these. We've been having these, I guess every 2 weeks. I don't want to do it too often, but every 2 weeks we get a video chat together and bring the industry together. And it's been so fun just to see people, for one. It's like, oh, it's like they're sitting right there. Now new people, it's a little different, but you feel like you're giving that energy to somebody and definitely receiving it. So I encourage y'all to do that and show the video always. Make sure we're all okay. Is there anything, just as we've been talking, that kind of came up that you wanted to share about the FSA? You can kind of wave if you want.
Well, I mean, I want to add on to the technology part right now. I think the early stages of this, let's go back to mid-March when kind of the apocalypse happened and everybody was in kind of survival mode. Nobody could care less about a webinar, right, about Fluid Sealing Association. They didn't want it. They were more concerned, okay, what about my job? What about my health, my family? Am I going to pay my mortgage? Certainly there's industries that have been devastated by this. And even some of our, fellow FSA members have been devastated. And we may not know the full impact of this for a long time, but now that people have settled into their daily routines, I think now is the prime time for FSA to have that message of who we are and what we are. I think it'd be great to go out now and do that marketing point, because now people are settled and now they're starting to feel more comfortable. They're into their job. They know what it's at, and why weren't they doing it before? I think there's a million reasons, and big ones are you're just consumed in the office every day, right, with distractions and good distractions work. But when you're at home and you only have your computer to keep you company all day long, you start looking for different information, and you all of a sudden have time and the focus to do it. A month ago, people didn't have the focus, I think, to do a lot of this.
Right.
Now they're just starting to get on it. So I think what the FSA could be amazing bridge for people right now for that information. And rather than waiting for them to come to us, let's reach out to everybody we know to say, here's what we have, guys, and here's what we can do for you from an information standpoint, and we support you. And conversations about, free or not free, or, outside my, pay grade. But I think we have an opportunity right now to really be a good support for a lot of people that have a need in a sealing product. And whether it be a customer or a competitor or, somebody in the middle, I think now's our time to really reach out to them and let them know what we can do to help them.
Yeah, and to that point, Amy, people that are using equipment that involves sealing the products, they didn't stop. That equipment kept going.
It kept going.
We all needed those, both the work and the machines, right?
Yeah.
Charlie, I have that. I wrote an article last year about this, but I think it was 2018 on Thanksgiving weekend. I don't know if you know where the Delaware bridges, where it goes from the tip of Delaware into the tip of New Jersey. It's on 95. It's a big area. On that Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend, that chemical plant that's right underneath that bridge, a flange let go, and it was caused a giant backup where they had to shut down that bridge, and everyone couldn't make it home, and it was a big deal, and it was because of a gasketing product. It was a sealing product that had let go and impacted everybody. And now you think of, in the world of COVID, and if something like the wastewater treatment plant stopped today, right? Or if, the electric grid all of a sudden stopped, and God forbid our internet didn't work, and you couldn't do telemedicine, is how big that is. It's almost kind of ratchet up how critical our products are to these critical infrastructure. And I'm just agree with you, Charlie, that these things still have to run. And they ran, getting back to what Amy was saying, those first couple of weeks when everyone was scared out of their mind, those workers were going there every day, making sure the power was running, making sure the wastewater treatment was running, and making sure the water came out of the tap. And that's, if it wasn't for them, as I said, that's what we're here to support. So.
Yeah, really, I've got chills. I'm about to cry. If y'all keep talking about this, it's so great. We've recently had the anniversary of the tornado that came through Tuscaloosa, and I can remember exactly where I was when the power went out and information was no longer available. And that moment, when something like this, that's like, it's like a light switch that comes on, like. Whenever you got the news, like that your kids were not going back to school or whatever, for me, it was like, okay, this is real. Whatever that was to you, what we realized in that moment is how vital these things are all the time, right? Like, it's not like that just that moment that you remember because it was a moment for you. That's different for everybody all over the U.S. and the globe for this one for sure. And so just keeping that in mind moving forward, and the need for advocacy, the need to educate. Y'all know that. I think that we kind of came up with this series, Knowledge Shared, based on a lot of different things. But the first time I started hearing about the knowledge base from the FSA, I got that moment. That's what we're really doing here, is sharing knowledge. And so I appreciate y'all doing that for the fluid sealing, I guess, community. And anybody else want to talk before we get going? Okay, because I haven't been timing this because we kind of started crazy. But go ahead, Tiana.
I have a question for everyone to answer. If you could share a tip or tool or resource that you feel like has been really helpful or valuable to you the past couple weeks, I would love it if you would share something that would be helpful to others.
I guess the best, I don't know, I guess for me, it has to do with video conferencing and how all the tricks and learning, we use Microsoft Teams primarily, and we have found a lot of good resources, and we've been trying to get that information out, because all of a sudden it went from a tool that you use once in a while to now you're living on. And so, you know, we've seen quite a few YouTube videos on this. We've actually created our own LMS program on how to use the tools, use Microsoft Teams better. But yeah, that tool has changed drastically for us. So I don't know if that's what you wanted there, but that's
what's helping you. That's what works, right? What about you, Amy?
I think for me, and I don't know if it's a tip or a trick, but making sure, you know, me or the other top management check in with each of our employees every day. And it could be a 20-second, how you doing, what do you need? But when you lose that interaction face to face, it's important to let them know you're there, acknowledge that work is maybe not the most important thing on their mind at the moment, but just to check in with them. And if they need anything, and sometimes they need something and sometimes they don't, but to check in with each and every single person, as short as it is or as long as they need. I think that's been invaluable to us.
I like it. Tom?
Well, for me, working remotely has always been part of my job, but a pointer that I have and shared with everyone is just, you know, get up like you're going to be getting up every day for work, get dressed, get ready, have your to-do list, have a plan of what you're going to accomplish that day. I know, especially in this point in time, there's a lot more interruptions than usual just because everyone's pulling on everyone to get things done. But just keep on track and contact people, everyone, and just keep in touch. I mean, that's a big difference.
Yeah, I'll give them a tip. Mine is to make sure in that calendar of Zoom meetings or whatever meetings that you have a space for yourself in there to take a break. Like, don't just, you know, have lunch right here at the next Zoom meeting or whatever. Take a break. And I think that's important to do a couple of times throughout the day. Remember to take care of yourself so that you can pour into others. Sienna, you have one?
Hey, can I add one more there?
Yes,
before
go for
that?
it.
Please.
You know, I think this is going to be such an interesting time that we're going to tell, like, you know, our grandchildren and stuff about what we did this time.
Yes.
You know, so I've been just kind of keeping a journal on this too, just because it's so weird that you wake up in the morning and you're like, what's actually going on here? You know, and how this is affecting myself and my family and my work and everything. Because I think when we're all back to normal and everyone's on a plane again and all this stuff, we'll be like, wow, did that really happen?
Right. That's right.
So, but yeah, I didn't mean to cut you up, but that was one thing for sure that I think has been interesting here, because we're going through some strange times, but we're all rising to the level of it. So I'm really glad to be working with Amy and Tom at the FSA, and you know, we're all meeting those commitments. So I really like that.
Yeah, and I'll say one more thing. I've got Ron on a podcast later this year, which I'm really excited about sharing that with everybody. Just, I think reaching out of our comfort zone and trying these things. They may, feel kind of uncomfortable at first, but we can do things. We can do hard things too. So, definitely try that. Sienna, did you come up with something?
Yeah, I wanted to say one thing. I think it's great because, in this time when, people and companies and trade associations have had to switch gears. I think one of the greatest things to see is that the FSA continues to show that, they're really working to provide value, not to the members and to the industry. And really, that's what it's about. We've all been reaching out to one another just to show we care and ask how you doing and how can we help, and to see the FSA doing that, it's just really great. So thank you guys so much for doing that.
So before y'all go, I'm gonna take a picture so y'all all look, smile or wave or whatever you want to do. Hold on. Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right. So again, blooper reel. She can take care of that. I appreciate all of you for just saying yes for one, and let us know if we can help with anything else. And if
I wanted to have done this normally, but since this COVID thing,
right, we're relaxed.
Might as well.
You would be in an airport right now, sitting in a chair, waiting to get on a metal tube to fly to somewhere else in the world.
Yeah.
It's amazing that now you can see a sunrise and see your neighbor.
I'm not stuck in this room.
You know where you are when you wake up today, right?
We wave to our neighbors. We're like, hey, don't come near us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm the neighbor that everybody's trying to avoid because I want to touch everybody. Like, oh, somebody give me a hug, please.